Welcome, everyone, to Wellness Wednesday, where you get your checkup from the neck up every Wednesday from 5:30 to 6 p.m., kicking it with Dr. P. Today, I have an extraordinary guest. When we talk about wellness, we're not just talking about the brain, we're talking about overall wellness, mental health, physical health, the whole sociological wellness of a person. And today, we have Katie Hilborn, who is the executive director of Compass Rose International. And you started this organization several years ago. I'm going to let you tell the story, but what I know, I think is fascinating that you were in Nepal and kind of doing your thing and trekking, and you uncovered some things going on there that weren't quite above board. And I'm reading your bio and I'm reading the information about what you've done over the last several years. And by the way, people, she's been honored alongside people like Barack Obama and Jane Goodall and just a lot of great humanitarians. And so I feel honored to be here with you. Um, but I first want you to talk about what you found in Nepal and what you exposed, and today, how you're trying to help these young females that essentially are being trafficked.
Yeah, gosh, it's been a long journey. So in 2015, we were in Nepal delivering disaster relief aid. If you recall, there was a series of three devastating earthquakes in 2015, and it happened within a 2-week time span. And then in the 3 months that followed the earthquakes, there was 450 independent aftershocks.
Oh, wow.
So the country was just in complete terminal turmoil.
Yeah.
I think that, well, I know the earthquake destroyed 50% of the country's economy, and 1 million homes were destroyed, 10,000 people died. So it was a very devastating uh, earthquake. And through my charity, at the time, my charity was called Global Orphan Prevention. And we were already working in the country for several years, working with widowed and abandoned mothers.
Mm.
And so I was familiar with the terrain and the landscape and the people. And so when the earthquake happened, I mean, it was a no brainer. I hopped on the flight as soon as I could and went to the country to see how I could help. Now, at this moment, I mean, they just were totally ill equipped to deal with the earthquake. I mean, I think that thousands and thousands of tons of international aid was just sitting idle on the tarmac at the airport. And so they just didn't know what to do. And so therein, li- uh, therein was born what the media dubbed us the guerrilla humanitarians,
Mm.
like the guerrilla fighter.
Sure.
You band together and take matters into your own hands. And so that's what we were doing. I was just, joining forces with other nonprofit leaders, Everest mountaineers, because it was during Everest climbing season in late March. And so we just organized our own expedition. We were buying tarps, rice, medical supplies, hiring jeeps and porters, and then going into the earthquake impact zone, delivering disaster relief aid. So that's how it started in
Yeah.
2015.
Yeah. And I remember the year 2015 well. That was the year we won the Super Bowl with the Broncos. Not to compare the two, but for me, I remember that year. And now that you bring it up, I do remember the earthquakes. But you were able to uncover some practices in Nepal there that really fuel, and what we're going to get to today. We're going to talk about the gala that's this Saturday night that you've put together on a regular basis to raise funds for this group. But talk to us about how you came upon or kind of tripped upon what you found to be trafficking of these young adolescent females.
Yeah, so it was a wild uncovering. So, towards the end of the summer, 3 months had passed. Now it was about August of 2015, and we went to basically the last village that we were helping, again, delivering rice and tarps, and when we arrived, we discovered that there was all these missing children. And we knew, ahead of time that this was a heavy hotspot for trafficking, so we did suspect,
Yeah.
but we decided to conduct our own undercover investigation, and my Nepali friend, Dr. Lakshmi Tamang, and I, we pretended we were working for the World Food Program, and we were trekking household to household collecting, data, uh, about earthquake relief,
Yeah.
and, but behind closed doors, Lakshmi. So Lakshmi is indigenous Nepali. She's Tamang, and the girls that were being taken are indigenous and they're Tamang. And so she was able to really build trust. And so we were trekking household to household, and we're going up steep Himalayan, windy
Sure.
road, cobblestone staircase,
Yeah.
literally emerging above the clouds. And this was happening over a few days. And every house we went to, we said, "Where's the missing girls? Where's the missing girls?" And at the bottom of the mountain, nobody's talking. They're very afraid.
Yeah.
But then we get to the top of the mountain, and through relationship building, they finally say, "Oh, the politicians at the bottom of the mountain are taking our indigenous girls from the top of the mountain and selling them to Indian brothels."
Mm.
Uh,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. So when you found out that information, what was your initial reaction? Like, were you thinking, "Wow, how are we going to, digest this and process this, and what are we going to do?" Because to me, like, where are the missing children? For me, that right there is a concern. And then when you find out maybe the local politicians are playing a role in this, then the issue is a lot deeper, right? So what did you start to do at that point?
Right. So, basically, what we suspected came to light, and we said, "Okay, well, how do we stop this?"
Yeah.
And so I remember we were in a hut at somebody's home, and we're talking dirt floor, tin roof. I think people live on $2 a day there. It's below the internet.
$2 a day, I'm moving. Let's go, Danny.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Um, but yeah, so I mean, it's below the international poverty line, so
Mm,
they're all farmers and
yeah.
things like that. And, so there was a group of family in this home, and a few families, and I said through a translator, "How do we stop this?" And actually, it was so beautiful. This young teen girl comes out from the shadows, and through a translator, she says, "We need education and we need jobs." And I mean, I intuitively knew that was a solution, but how I approach my humanitarian work is called soft power. You just ask the right questions, and the people you're helping come up with the
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah. Yeah. So through that, you've created this gala this weekend that is, we're hoping that we can get everyone out and sell all the tables out. How are we doing with that so far?
Yeah, we still have about 10 tables to sell,
Okay.
so, about 100 seats. So,
Yeah.
yes, I would absolutely love to sell it out.
Yeah, we really want to get people out because it's for a great cause. By the way, I'm going to be the MC there, and
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, it's going to be fun. It's going to be humorous. It's going to be fun, but it's for a really serious and topic that we need to address in the U.S. too, because it's a growing concern in the United States. It even reached my family recently when I heard that an extended cousin knows somebody that had been trafficked in Southern California from a different country. So it's becoming something that's becoming more and more mainstream news. But
Yeah.
tell us what you put together in terms of this gala on Saturday night and what people can do to help.
Yeah, thank you. So we're having our 5th annual gala this Saturday night at the Ritz-Carlton at 5 p.m. I can't believe it's been 5 years
Yeah.
already. Yeah, so it's gonna be a beautiful event. We're gonna have traditional Nepali dancers and band during the cocktail reception, of course, silent and live auction, 3-course plated meal, open bar, and of course, Dr. P as our MC. So it's gonna
Yes,
be a
sir.
really fun event. Hope you
Yeah.
can join.
Yeah. And when we talk about mental health and wellness on this show, typically it's what I want people to understand is mental health is far reaching. I mean, it's, obviously in all over the globe and all over the world. But I think COVID really gave so many people
Mhm.
a pause to look at themselves, look at how they communicate with each other, how they interact with each other, and how mental health affects their life. And so when we look at an issue like trafficking of adolescent females, um, to me, that really hits the target when we talk about mental health, because why is there a market for this? Why is there people that want and drive this market? And that's part of mental health. I think that if we can address that, too in our society. And I don't necessarily mean your group and your organization,
Mhm.
but I mean us as psychologists, us as sociologists and therapists, to understand why is this there a need for this? And when we do that as well, when we understand what the need and what the call is to fuel this market, then I think we have a chance to really attack this on both ends. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I mean, you're absolutely correct. Trafficking is a mental health issue.
Yeah.
So yes, we're focused in Nepal. We have a girls' center with 46 full-time residents. That live there and receive an education. However, trafficking is happening right here locally, and Denver is actually a hotspot for that. So, the trafficking hotspots in America are, I hate to say it, based on easy exit points. So,
Mm-mm.
I mean, we have like 3 or 4 highways here in Denver that connect to 4 different parts of the country. So, Denver actually is a hotspot because of that. Um, and even, like, you might know this, but the Super Bowl, maybe we don't wanna get political here, but that's
No,
one
we're
of the
no,
biggest
we're
producers.
age
Yeah.
we're free. Go ahead and say it.
Yeah, I mean, the Super Bowl is one of, like, the biggest, events for human trafficking, out there, and they know it. This Super Bowl was the first Super Bowl in all in history where they actually took out a public service announcement condoning it, which I'm very proud of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So think about that. As we talk about Super Bowls every week, I was part of Super Bowl 50 that we won with the Denver Broncos. We want to talk about all the glitz and the glamour and everything, but there's an underbelly to this. And we
Mhm.
need to talk about it, people. We need to talk about it because as a psychologist, I'm committed to helping people every day be the best they can be. But sometimes we have to expose maladaptive behaviors, things that are going on in our society that maybe people want to sweep under the rug, but it's going on. I mean, these adolescent females are someone's child.
Mhm.
There's someone's brother, sister, and there's someone's relative. And I just think it's really important that we talk about this. And I'm really looking forward to Saturday night because I think that one of the things you've done is you've illuminated this in a way that so many of us are getting involved. I mean, my background is athletics and academics, um, and in the business world too. But when I heard about your mission and your cause and what you do, like I'm all in. Like anything I can do at any time, and anybody I can empower and get to support your
Mhm.
mission and vision is powerful because we've got to get better people in our society. I was talking to my girlfriend today and she used this word. She says our society in general in the United States is in decay.
Mhm.
And I thought about that word and I'm like, I kind of vibe with that because I see people who just are different. I don't know if it's post COVID and a combination of a breakdown in our belief and value systems, not sure, but man, we are in decay on many levels. And the best remedy for pain, internal pain, is to give and to help others and to share with others. So I'm going to attack this decay with
Mhm.
any way I can help your organization. And for the listeners and viewers out there, tell us more about tonight. Not tonight, almost here, Saturday night. Tell us more about Saturday night, how they can get tickets, how they can contribute, very specifically, because I want them to be able to do that.
Yeah, thank you so much. So please go to our website, compassroseinternational.org. And right there on the landing page, there's a big old button that says reserve your seat. You should know that ticket sales end Thursday night. So, less stress on us if you buy it right now.
Yeah, yeah. So let me visit this from a humanistic perspective.
Mhm.
Why? Why? What motivates you to do what you do? Because it's unique, it's
Mhm.
altruistic. People have asked me before why I'm a psychologist. My story's out there. My brother was murdered when I was 7 years old. He was 18. And for me, it was like I had to do something or go crazy, And so for me, the remedy for the vulnerability that I feel sometimes around that, the only solution for me is to help and to heal people. Tell us your story. What is your motive for wanting to be this humanitarian that you have evolved to become at such a young age, too? and how you just keep giving and helping people.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. And actually, a reporter first asked me that question in 2015 after the earthquakes, and I said, "I don't know why I do this back in 2015."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Is it because you're adopted?" And, like, this light bulb clicks, and I
Ooh.
was like,
Okay.
"Oh." So,
Okay.
I up until 2015, I didn't know why I did what I did, but, my why and, Simon Sinek says, "Start with your why." I was born to a mother with severe mental illness, and then she abandoned me in the foyer of an office building when I was 6 days old, simply walked out, and then that's when social services swooped up, picked me up, and then they put me in the loving arms of my parents now, John and Susan Hilborn.
Okay, so please repeat that
Yeah.
because I know I heard what you said, but I just need to digest that and process that. Your mom, your birth mom, mental health issues, abandoned you in a building foyer.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, she had severe mental health, so she didn't had no idea what she was doing, and she just left me in my stroller in an office building, a random office building, and then walked out. I was 6 days old.
6 days old.
Mhm.
Wow. I'm blown away by that, Katie. I
Mm,
really am.
mm.
That's an incredible story.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and to think, look at where you're at, look at your destination, look what you're
Mhm.
gonna do in the future.
Yeah.
And here's my philosophy as a psychologist is I've often thought about my mission. Like, people will say, "Why are you always such in a good mood and picking people up and loving people?" To me, it's my only solution to the
Yeah,
pain.
yeah.
Otherwise I'd waller in pain and think about why. Why did this happen to my brother? Why did this happen to my family? But to me, it's when you give and love and share, you're able to process that pain. And when I
Mhm.
look at you now, there's joy in your face.
Yeah.
And there's so many kids that are born to their nuclear families and they have both parents and they go to nice schools and they go to country clubs and they have all these support systems around them and they turn out kind of sour,
Right.
you know?
Yeah,
And here we have beauty in front of us
yeah.
that has evolved from a stroller, in
Yeah,
essence, that was abandoned.
yeah.
And I think that deserves
Mm.
just so much adulation and approval and acceptance because it just goes to show what can happen with love. And
Yes.
so your
That's right.
parents that adopted you, tell us how they cultivated that. What did they do
Yeah.
besides just love you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I really I mean, I grew up in a run-of-the-mill middle-class family, so it wasn't like I had any extra special privileges, but I mean, gosh, they love me unconditionally.
Wow.
I look back and I don't think I could ever do wrong because I mean, of course, I would get in trouble as a
Sure.
kid, but the amount of unconditional love and just like and then I grew up in a affluent Chicago suburb, so I had a really good, middle and, high school education, and, I mean, they ingrained in our minds that we really could be and do anything that we wanted.
Yeah.
And so fast forward, I will tell you, I did in my teenage years, I was a little bit of a bratty high school
Mhm.
teenager,
Yeah.
typical teenage person, staying out past curfew all the time, making my mom's life miserable. But then fast forward around 18, 19, I met my birth mother and found out that she was dying from multiple
Oh,
sclerosis.
wow.
Um, and so the last 10 years of her life before she died, she had was confined to a wheelchair and could move nothing but her head. And, seeing this as an 18, 19-year-old kid, first of all, it shattered all my notions that I was this like privileged child. And then I was like, oh my God, I faced my own mortality and realized had I not been adopted, what kind of life I might have had because the family was extreme poverty.
Yeah.
So it lit a fire under
Mhm.
my butt. And then I was like, also, I didn't know at the time, is multiple sclerosis hereditary? Am I too gonna spend the last 10 years of my life in a
Mm.
wheelchair? And so at an early age, 19, I was like, okay, what's my legacy gonna be?
Yeah.
I gotta do something with my life because I don't know how much longer I'm gonna have on this planet.
Yeah.
And that's when I started exploring the world and doing one-off volunteer projects in various countries and eventually found my way to the charity.
Yeah. In psychology, we say there's a thirst or a need to know. People who are thirsty in terms of their
Mhm.
knowledge acquisition and curiosity. I've always said the greatest trait of a scientist is curiosity. Like,
Yes.
what if? What if when I used to be a college professor, I used to tell my students it's not the answers that are powerful, it's the questions that when you walk out of my class that you go, what if? What if? And there's always that possibility. And that sounds to me, Katie, like what you've done with your life is, well, what if I gave what back? What if I helped?
Mhm.
And, we have a rule in psychology called the 1090 rule.
Mhm.
And that means life is 10% of what happens and 90% how we react to it.
Mm.
So it's not necessarily, and people usually have that backwards. They're like, oh my gosh, I lost my job. Oh my gosh, I went through a divorce. But it's what you do in response to that. That's only 10% of it. The rest of it is 90%. What am I going to do about a divorce? What am I going to do about losing my job? 70% of people who lose their job, either through being laid off or fired, 70% of people, when you ask them a year later how they're doing in terms of their job occupation, they say, I'm actually better. I'm actually better than where I was because it forced them to go out and find and learn and acquire something that was even more functional or better for
Mm.
them. So I think those of us, and I include us together, hopefully you accept that I'm in your group, those of us that have experienced trauma. And by the way, people, who hasn't experienced trauma? We all have on some level. And so those of us that are siblings of murdered people, we go through it. Every time I have a friend that her sister was murdered, shot in her own apartment. I couldn't believe how that conjured up memories for 3 months for me. And my brother was murdered 40 years ago. So it's amazing how trauma just impacts our everyday life. But for those of us that have experienced it, and adoption, I mean, I'm not an expert on adoption and I'm not an expert on the psychological implications of that, because in essence, it looks like you've turned your life into beauty and sharing. By the way, Tupac Shakur said there's beauty in the struggle. So there's nothing wrong with struggling,
Yeah.
and there's beauty in every struggle, and you chose to find it. And I love that about your story. I didn't know that you were adopted. And it doesn't put you necessarily at a disadvantage. In this case, maybe at an advantage. We don't know. But I think it's really cool that you got to meet your birth mom. You is she still alive?
No, she died when I was 20, so I'm
Okay.
41,
Okay.
21 years ago.
Okay. So did she play a role in your inspiration at all?
Well, very indirectly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I met her a few times back in my 18 to 20, but because I watched her die,
Yeah.
that indirectly was like, okay, I got to do something with my life. And, you talk a lot about purpose. And I mean, that's like at 19, I was like, what's my purpose?
Yeah. Yeah. Your purpose is to lead this organization that you are. And tell us one more time before we leave about Saturday night, the name of the gala, how you can get tickets, and for this
Yes.
such worthwhile cause. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Please join us. It is a worthy cause. We support in Nepal, but we're also supporting here with Denver Teen Women. We just had a conference 2 days ago in which Dr. P was one of our keynote speakers. And so we do support locally. Yeah. The Ritz Carlton, go to compassroseinternational.org. And then right on the homepage there, you'll see a button to buy tickets. And it's going to be a super fun event. And then stay for the after party. It's an electronic dance party with circus and frick frack blackjack. It's going to be a lot of fun, all right there at the Ritz.
Wow. What's an electronic dance party?
So
Quit laughing at me back there, Danny.
so it's a DJ called the Duchess, and she does house music. So
Okay.
it's going to be
All
that kind
right.
of dancing.
Well, I once Taught Janet Jackson a few moves, so I'll have to
Yeah,
show you
yeah.
guys on Saturday night.
But don't worry if you're not into electronic music, during the gala itself, we're gonna have a traditional Nepali band.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be fun, but we're also gonna help, her organization raise funds for this worthwhile cause. And without ending on a downer, let me just say this, people. Let's take this seriously because trafficking is really an international issue. And it's something that for me, I want to contribute more and more as I get older and older in my career as a psychologist. For those of you who watched me for a while, you know what I've done in Super Bowls. You know what I've done in national championships. You know what I've done with organizations. But now in my career, I want to give back. And I really think all of us, if we could give, and it doesn't have to affect you directly, it doesn't have to affect your family directly, but just know that we're all in this together. We really are people. We are people, and we should always help each other any way, shape that we can. And when you help each other, that's called self-transcendence. You transcend yourself, you help others, and when you give to others, it lifts your mood, your brain comes alive, all the neurons are firing, and we're rocking. Thank you again for being here, Katie. We'll see you next time on Kicking It with Dr. P on Wellness Wednesdays.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.